late, but I've just been to see Maxine, and that means it's time for another one of these. Yes, hello, welcome back to another movie review, another video. Today we're talking all things Maxine in a movie review today. Now you'll have to excuse me, I've got an absolutely massive ulcer right here, so I'm going to look quite weird as I talk today because I'm really trying to not irritate it because it really hurts. But welcome back to another movie review. I've just been to see Maxine. I'm a little bit late to the party. A lot of people have already seen this film, but I've just been to see it. So that means I want to talk about it, and as always, just because I feel this way about this film doesn't mean you'll feel the same way, because you may go and love it or hate it and feel the complete opposites to me. So just remember that, because these are just my thoughts. So without any further ado, I've got my laptop here again because I found this much more easier than trying to remember things off the top of my head. But this film is lots of blood and gore. It's more of a horror than you really think it is, and the trailers kind of paint this film out to be more of a psychological thriller. It is that, don't get me wrong, it is that, but it is also a very literal blood and guts horror film, and that is where I kind of fell for a trap, really, because I don't like horror films. I never have, and I'm 90% certain that I never will like horror films. It's just not for me. I kind of go to the cinema to relax, unwind, and kind of lose myself in a really, I don't know, playful, charming, joyful, fun story. And I just can't go to the cinema and leave the screen feeling absolutely terrified, which I did after seeing Maxine. So yeah, that is worth noting. I don't like horror films, and I was kind of misled when watching trailers and reading descriptions of this film. So yeah, I don't think the trailers necessarily depict the film in the right way. So I just thought I'd put that out there. But the actual film itself, the storyline is presented in quite a bizarre way, I thought anyway. It's kind of, a lot of the storyline is presented to you like a typical film, but there are quite a few parts of the story where they show you clips and scenes of things, and it kind of leaves you to infer what's happening. I find that quite challenging sometimes, because a lot of the scenes I thought had two meanings, so it was quite hard to kind of understand without clarification of what was actually happening. So that is worth noting. You're kind of left to infer and guess to what's happening. Obviously it all adds up towards the end of the film and you do kind of for certain know what's happening, but yeah, there are quite a few parts of the film where you're kind of left guessing as to what's happening. Bring a jacket if you're squeamish, or bring something like that, because this film is a psychological thriller, it is a horror, it is a psychological horror as much as a literal horror, but there's lots of blood and guts. If you don't like blood, probably not for you this film, but I had a jumper. I don't know why, because it was quite a warm day, but I had a jumper, and I'm so glad I did, because the amount of times I was like this, I didn't like it. I didn't like it too much in that respect. So if you are squeamish, if you don't like blood and guts, then do take something to kind of cover your face with, because the first time something awful happened, I was like, oh my gosh, where's my jumper? And I couldn't find it, and I had to see this bloody scene, and I just didn't like it. So bring a jumper, bring something to cover your face if you are quite squeamish, because you'll need it. Next thing, again, like I say, I do hate horror, and like I say, I'm 90% certain that I always will hate horror films, but it was a really interesting film. Maxine is based on a true story, and it really does kind of leave you wondering and questioning how people lived life, kind of knowing that there's a serial killer on the loose, not knowing when he can next strike. You know, victims are literally doors away from you. Like, that really interests me, and I found that so fascinating to kind of see how on earth can people go about their day-to-day life knowing there's a serial killer in your local town. Like, that to me, it's just really, I find that so interesting, kind of seeing how people live their life. And although this film isn't a documentary about kind of a serial killer being loose in a town, it kind of does show now and again these small scenes of members of the public going about their day-to-day life. And I watch it knowing the fact that there's a serial killer on the loose and they're going about their day-to-day life. I found that really fascinating, and it is really interesting because it is based on a true story. So to me, I really enjoyed that aspect of the film more than the blood, guts, and horror that the rest of the film is. That's essentially what it is. Like I say, kind of to summarise this film, you do have to be a certain type of person to watch it. For me, again, I kind of fell for it. I don't like horrors. If I'd have known what kind of film this was before going to see it, I probably wouldn't have booked tickets to go and see it. So if you like horror films and you like scary films, then you may enjoy this film because it is a horror, it is a scary film. But having said that, because I don't like horror films, I probably found this movie 10 times more scary than it actually is, just because I don't like horror films. So even the smallest amount of horror probably scared the life out of me. So that is worth noting. I probably found this film more scary than it actually is, just because I prefer watching Woody and Buzz on a big screen, not a serial killer on the loose. So that is worth noting. But anyway, we've reached the end of another movie review, and as always, what to rate it out of 10, and will I be buying it on DVD? Well, I'm giving this film a solid 4 out of 10. It's interesting, I enjoyed it, but I was quite scared, and I feel like I missed quite a substantial amount of the film because I was like this half of the time. So if you like scary films, this may be for you, and this definitely isn't for me. So I think you can kind of guess, will I be buying it on DVD? The answer is probably not, because not for me, not one that I will be in a rush to rewatch at all. I feel like I should probably get better on normal horror films first before I go and rewatch ones that I've already seen. So no, I will not be buying it on DVD. And with that said, there is the end of another movie review. Thank you very much for watching. In the description below is of course a link to the movie trailer. The plot of the movie is also in the description below, and my movie review playlist is also down there. And other than that, I shall see you in another video and another movie review very soon.